Throughout the Metal Gear series, there are many strong characters such as the boss, Ocelot, or Solidus Snake. And then there are the others, Huey, Skullface, the B+B Corps. As far as I can see, this decline is strongly linked to Kojima's overall love of the series. Let me explain how. Before this video begins, a special shout out to my £10 Patreon supporters: Alden Perez 91, ArcWolf01, Ash Mocker, David Henry 567, Dinosh the Guy, Got Your Neck, Julian CG 0427, Kovac, NBGI__, Sam Weenin, and Tony Falco 80. Thanks for your support. When looking at them through modern eyes, Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 seem as deep as a puddle, and the characters are two-dimensional. But for the time, they were very detailed, especially in Metal Gear 2. We got to know them on a more personal level, both by what they said and conversed about, but also about their attitudes towards others and certain situations. These additional details served little to no purpose in completing the game, or even informing Snake on how to complete his mission. Most elements were missable entirely, but they were thought out and included as part of the individual's personality, making them much deeper. This then makes them seem more like real people. They are actually three-dimensional, complex, sometimes even conflicting. Take Grey Fox. He is loyal to Big Boss, a man that has saved his life and also given him a reason to keep on fighting. Right or wrong, Fox can't seem to live a normal life and feels more at home on the battlefield. Big Boss provides this for him. But on the flip side, Fox helps Snake as a friend. As the mysterious #1 fan, he guides Snake towards his objective, and even gives Snake an opportunity to leave when he first appears in Metal Gear D. These actions clearly conflict with each other, but they show Fox's important relationships and how he tries to deal with them both simultaneously. Moving forward, characters like Sniper Wolf and Psycho Mantis clearly suffered trauma in their early life. They both tell us as much, and this obviously shapes the people that they are by the events of Metal Gear Solid. It's easy to understand why they are living the life they live, but it's also clear to us as outsiders that this is not acceptable. This, however, doesn't detract from their reasoning as to why. It just makes them more human. Now, we also have Otacon, who has his own share of trauma from his youth. Granted, some of this we are not aware of until later, but he reacts very differently. He doesn't feel compelled to kill numerous people, but it can still be argued that he is deeply flawed as a person. His twisted love of Sniper Wolf clearly shows this. But this is what people are, and this is how Kojima and his team brought pixels to life. He makes the characters real and human, and we feel something for them. Even if it's pity or hatred, there is a connection to the characters from the player. Contrast this with the characters that get introduced post Snake Eater. Guns of the Patriots goes out of its way to undo and tarnish any decent character development that came before it. The reveal of the Patriots feels very forced because the characters presented to us feel so removed from how we remember them. So much so that Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain desperately have to reinforce these sudden changes. It could be argued that one or two of these groups could go rogue and get sent down a path, but Major Zero, Paramedic and Sigint. Then let's just crowbar in Naked Snake, Ocelot and Eva just for good measure, because these were characters the player was familiar with and it'll create drama, no matter how forced it feels. Speaking of familiar characters, let's drag Otocon's dad into the mix and make him a clone of his own son, complete with the same voice. That's not how parents and children work. Now personally, I think introducing Huey into the mix was a mistake in of itself. It almost makes Snake and Hal's meeting some kind of destiny that was bound to happen because their fathers knew each other. But if Huey is going to be introduced to the series, why can't he be his own person? I guess in a way he kind of does become his own person, because we flip the Otacon clone on its head and turn him into some kind of crazed supervillain that can't be killed off because of plot armour. It has been playing the Phantom Pain again recently for a Twitch series that really highlighted to me how off the characters are compared to versions of themselves in the rest of the series. Kaz becomes consumed by rage and vengeance. Okay, I kind of get that to a point given what happens to him in the 9-year gap. But then Huey turns absolutely crazy, Ocelot loses his entire personality, Venom now is just a shell, and yes, obviously this isn't Big Boss, but if he's meant to be a mental copy, surely his personality would be the same. Even Skullface seems a lot less direct and sure of his intentions and motivations compared to the brief time we get with him in Ground Zeroes. In that game, he seemed intriguing and tantalising. It was part of the reason that people wanted to play the Phantom Pain, just to see what he came up with next. The sick and twisted actions that we catch on bonus cassette tapes really flesh out this evil and warped individual. But he just doesn't feel the same by the time the Phantom Pain comes out. Again, yes, there's been a 9-year gap, but he feels so lacking. The more I thought about and looked at the series, it was the Snake Eater to Guns of the Patriots leap that really broke things. After all, this was when Kojima was dragged back to the series after receiving death threats. Without that awful act, he likely would have finally handed the series over like he had wanted to after Sons of Liberty. He did come back for Snake Eater, as he could see the team couldn't cope, but he decided to go back then. But for Guns of the Patriots, he was forced back. And in that state, why would you do your best work? He'd already stated that the mystery of the Patriots was never meant to be resolved. The story of Metal Gear Solid 4 was never really meant to happen. Metal Gear Solid 4 itself could have done, but telling a very different story with very different characters. Instead, Snake is reduced to a coughing, snarky, belligerent uncle type character. Otacon rehashes his Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 arc with Naomi. Raiden tries to co-opt all of the cool elements from Grey Fox. And any new characters like Sunny or Rat Patrol could have been swapped out for shop mannequins and you wouldn't notice. Sunny is such a nothing character. She seems to be disrespecting Olga with every appearance. She's so much more in Revengeance and barely appears, but her character shines through tenfold. As I said before, forcing Kojima back resulted in him doing a C+ job. And of course it would do. I don't really blame him. Even though it was he that made these characters, or rather characterless dolls, what they were, or weren't, he had earned the right to leave the Metal Gear world behind. I think that's part of the reason why I'm hoping that Delta is a huge success. If it is, then maybe we'll finally get a new version of Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. And with the fleshing out that they would need, we could finally see what someone who is passionate about Metal Gear could do with it and the characters in those games. Adding nuance and complexity to the likes of Kyle Schneider or Dr. Madnar could really elevate them in the eyes of the fans. I guess here's hoping, right? But what do you think about the characters in the Metal Gear series? Was there a point when it all went south? Am I just full of crap? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.